In fact, one of my videos I was sitting behind and trying to just make it work, but this one is working well, so let me just start with this. And now this is one of my favorites. I think Suvin has seen this before, but maybe many of you haven't. Now this patient presented to me like this, and this patient had come in 1 year after surgery, 1.5 years after surgery, with a very well-centered IOL, and had come with PCO, and we had done a small central capsulotomy. And as you can see that about a month later, this patient came to us with sudden fall in vision, and saying that I was able to see very well after the capsulotomy for some time, but over about a month or so, he suddenly started noticing that his vision was not up to the mark, and he was getting a lot of glare and reflexes. So when we saw him on the slit lamp, this is how it looked. It was a Zeiss lens which was in the back at the time of capsulotomy. Even though a small central area capsulotomy was done, it maybe because of the forces of the back shrinkage and the IOL not being comfortable inside the back for some reason, this thing stretched on both sides. So the capsulotomy extended. We normally do a cruciate kind of capsulotomy. We go one vertical and horizontal, a few 2-3 shots on each side, and we normally try to create about 2 to 3 millimeter central opening. But somehow this extended on each side. It must have been a taut band. Now this lens was actually dislocating into the vitreous cavity, and it was almost dangling when we saw this, and it looked like another few days and it will prolapse into the vitreous. And the options were the same as what we've probably discussed over the day, but we thought we can either exchange this IOL or maybe try to relocate it into the sulcus if we won't have to make a big incision. So this is how we went about it. We were lucky that there was no vitreous in the anterior chamber, so it did not require an immediate vitrectomy. And these hydrophilic lenses are friendly and to manipulate. They are not difficult. We thought we'll just dial it out. It was a little tricky because we thought that if we don't get it, you can see that I immediately got hold of that, haptic and engaged my dialer into it, the plane manipulator, and immediately wanted to ensure that it doesn't fall into the vitreous cavity. Another way to do it is to pass a small suture through the haptic if the haptic permits, but here we were able to just engage it with a manipulator. So sometimes a big intervention can be saved by just ensuring that if you are careful and you are able to manipulate this from the anterior route, if it is not incarcerated into the vitreous, the vitreous is not encapsulating the lens. Now it looked good to me. I thought, although this is not the perfect place for this lens to be, but as you can see, it looked good, but there was vitreous there, and it would not be a good idea to leave it like this. We thought we'll go in with triamcinolone and vitrectomy and try to see, but we thought we can just put pilocarpine and see if that small bead goes back after being trimmed from at the wound, which is not probably the best way. But I noticed that by just releasing that strand which was incarcerated into the paracentesis, if my pupil size, pupil shape becomes round, and I can get away with that. And here I was not in a mood to go in with a full vitrectomy thing. So you can see that suddenly now the pupil looks round, and we were able to save the day by just ensuring that lens. So it stayed well, and this patient continues to do well after a year or two of being treated this way. And Suvin, can I take a break for 2 minutes and come back for my scleral fixate thing? It's there, but I'm not able to locate the video in the correct presentation files. Anyway, I wanted to share this. I have 2 videos to share only. One of these, this patient was referred to us with a huge PC opening over here, almost of this size with the IOL. This was an SICS done by one of the surgeons, and he had put in this lens about 2 or 3 months before. And of course, because the opening was so huge, this lens had managed to find its way through, and he was referred for potentially a scleral fixation or a glued IOL kind of situation. So before being taken up by a VR surgeon for a thorovitrectomy and possibly a sutured fixation or a scleral fixation, we thought we just see if we can relocate this lens, as Suvin has taught us so many times, to at least try to relocate them. And you can see that the vitreous face is broken here. You can see this fine line, and the IOL is actually mostly into the vitreous now. So making 2 paracentesis spots, and I'll just run through this because the edited video was part of my presentation, which is not available to me right now, and I had to hunt out the unedited one, but it still gives the message. So we used this dialer from the side port after putting in viscoelastic, and we thought we'd just try to mobilize the lens and see if we are able to mobilize. Of course, the rent was so huge that it was looking unlikely. The capsular support here was very, very minimal. On this side, we still have had a little bit of capsular support, but the good thing was that in about 2 months' time that this patient had been operated, some of this capsular remnants had fibrosed. So we had like a little bit of a shelf here, and we had again a 1 or 2 millimeter shelf here, which was looking very, very dicey to reposition this lens on, but it was worth a try. So I've learned over the years that if your capsular support is negligible but it has been there for some time, it tends to fibrose, and the shelf usually will hold, especially with the lens, with a multi-piece, with a single-piece PMMA lens which has haptic design of this kind. It was a big lens. It was a 6 millimeter lens used through the SICS incision. So I was able to maneuver the haptics into that small shelf available over there, and as I was dialing it out of the vitreous, luckily we did not find any kind of vitreous disturbance. It just slid out of the opening in the vitreous space which was there. There was no major vitreous disturbance at that time, and you can see the lens is easily mobile, and I was able to just dial it in and bring that haptic which was initially put on that shelf over here. I was able to dial it on the other side, and even though our optic size is smaller than the size of the opening in the posterior capsule, our haptics are very nicely secure over here and here. And now it was very tempting to leave it like this, because it was such a simple surgery. We had just done 2 paracentesis ports, and patient had actually been referred for an SFIL or a glue diol. And however, we decided to check the stability of the lens, and I tried to make sure that this is not going to dislocate again, because the patient will obviously be very uncomfortable if this was to happen a second time after the second corrective surgery. But we were able to have a very well centered lens. We put in pilocarpine, and I was able to see that the lens would stay in its position. We waited for quite some time, played around, manipulated the lens a little bit to see that it was stable. Finally it was left, and it's probably about 9 or 10 months follow-up now. Capsular bag has fibrosed even more, and this patient continues to do well. There was another small video which I wanted to share with you. This was again an interesting situation, and I think I'll expect Dr. Haldipurkar sir's comments on this, because now this patient was being taken up for a vitrectomized eye, and was being taken up for a secondary eye situation, and we were going to do a So this patient was a post-vitrectomized eye, and you can see that there was a lot of iris atrophy here. He was referred to us for a secondary IL situation. I'll show you why this fits into this course, because secondary ILs are not part of this course, but I just wanted to share with you a unique situation we faced. We decided to go here with a retrofixated iris claw lens. This was amongst my very early retrofixated iris claw lenses, which about 3 years back when I started doing them, and I was stuck in a very peculiar situation in this case. We went ahead with our usual incisions and did a vitrectomy to clear up whatever little remnants were visible. It was already a vitrectomized eye, but I found some small strands still visible in this area, in the anterior area. After clearing those, I was able to get a clear field, and we put in a little bit of pilocarpine to constrict the pupil, and went in with the retrofixated iris claw lens, and I was able to, I'm not very good at it, as elegant as what Dr. Haldipurkar shows, but this was amongst my first videos, and I've never been very, very comfortable enclaving the haptics here, but I managed. Now I was able to, and maybe sir can give a few tips on how best to enclavate these lenses. So I was able to capture one. I usually put like 2.
If you can freeze it there.
Okay. Somehow I struggled, but I was able to do it. So I'll just show you. This one is done. Then went on to the other side. This is the other side pointing forceps, which apparently Ravijit uses, and I have probably done just about 20 retrofixated iris claw lenses till now. And now I'm really okay. This was my second or third patient, and he now uses a smaller IOL. As I've seen recently, he has had a slightly smaller total size lens design.
Yes.
Which is easier to negotiate through a smaller pupil, and also fixates not as much in the periphery. So there I'm able to enclavate that. So twice. Now the lens was stable and nice here. I was able to leave it behind, and you can see it's a little hypotenuse. Now this till now things went very well. Now the funny thing is that I sutured this wound, and just see here I'm ready to finish off the surgery. I finish it, and I decide to remove the viscoelastic. And if you notice, my bottle height here is down to 37, because I know that this eye is already a vitrectomized eye and is going to expand. I would normally do eye at a high bottle height of maybe 100 or something, but I've decreased it to 37. And let's see what happens as I go in with my eye to clear off all the visco. Just watch. There, the lens from one side is, now I have a dangling lens, because as soon as the eye distended, it's a vitrectomized eye, and it's a unique situation. My bottle height was only 55 here. I anticipated that I should not use a very high bottle height, but as soon as the iris diaphragm was pushed back and the eyeball distended, now my IOL is actually dangling from only one attachment over here. So I'm in a peculiar situation of how to bring back that thing and refixate it. So I'll just finish off in 1 minute. So anyway, now I was stuck here, and I'll just show you how I finally managed to bring it back. So I used this plain spatula and went there, and very dangerous maneuver, and I was really scared of doing this because the dangling lens. So I thought I'll just give it one shot, and if I'm not able to do it, then I'll probably just disengage this one as well and let it fall and let the vitreous VR surgeon bring it out in toto. But I thought I'll give it a shot. I was able to just go behind that and negotiate the dangling lens. I could see it actually when I zoomed my microscope and changed the focus to a very low setting. I was able to see the optic dangling, and I just went with the plane manipulator, brought it back up, and now struggled a little more with refixating this. Somewhere here I think I was able to finally enclavate it again. And my lesson learned was that if it's a vitrectomized eye and you've done a retrofixated iris claw lens, I now just do a passive wash of the viscoelastic if I've used some. I don't use the bimanual eye systems because the bottle height is high. Any other tips which you guys would like to give, I think are welcome, how I could have avoided this or changed it. My enclavation was fairly good because I had done twice I had done on each side, but the problem was that as soon as the eyeball distended, and the iris diaphragm was pushed back, it stretched and it came off on one side. Maybe it could have been a stronger thing.
How old is the story?
This is about 2 years old, sir.
After that, the lens has not...
No, it hasn't. No, nothing is wrong. So, still works.
Very often, the iris clip lenses that we have here, that PMMA is not compression mold.